Joining me now is Todd Bensman of CIS.org. Todd Bensman, CIS.org, and ToddBensman.com. Todd, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here again. Thanks.
So we broke a story about with the United Truckers, all of these illegals in America driving 18-wheelers under fake CDL licenses. They're being given license up in Canada. They're coming down here. These are not Canadians. They are foreigners. They're from Somalia. They're from the Middle East. We detailed news stories, showed local news reports, how these guys are running over families, killing one family of four, killing a guy in Colorado. I mean, this is a huge, huge story no one's talking about. And we brought them on my 74 stations a couple of days in a row. We had them here. We pushed it out all over social media, every platform we can. We just pumped it for 6-7 days. Fox News picked us up. And the story, I should say, picked up the story 6 days later, interviewed those two guys. They sent us a message saying, thank you for helping us get on Fox. And we were happy to do it. And I'm glad Fox carried them. It's a huge story. Are you aware of this story? Were you aware of it before it broke?
I had not been aware of it. I did recently see it in the news, so I didn't know it was traced to you. Congratulations. That's an important story. Very important story, especially if people are dying as a result. Questions I have, first of all, I've always known that immigrants have gravitated toward, those kinds of jobs, truck driving jobs. And that's okay if you're legal, and that's okay if the states that issue the licenses are properly policing and enforcing their rules, and the people that hold them, making sure that they're not fraudulent, for example, making sure that people involved in accidents are held to account and might have to have those suspended, that sort of thing. And so the big question I have is whether that is happening, especially in blue states that want illegal immigrants to work at any cost, even if it means the lives of innocent people, other pedestrians and drivers. So, are blue states not policing those what are they called? CDLs?
CDLs, yep.
CDLs, that's right. And are they not policing for fraud? Because I think part of the story is that they're fraudulent, that the licenses themselves might be fraudulent.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of evidence to that. And there's some legislation being offered up in states like United Truckers is helping do in Arkansas, and groups are opposing them and thinking that, well, one more piece of paperwork you file will help overcome that. Well, if you're doing fraud and you're doing counterfeit, one more piece of paperwork's not going to fix that. We got to go deeper than that. Logan, do we have the cleaned up version where that guy ran over that family and is being confronted? There was too much swearing in to air it as is, but I want you to watch this because this is right up your alley when it comes to the cartels and them making fake CDLs. Here we go. Stop it, Dolly. Here we go.
I got the right Shannon, did I?
There's more than one on the list. I was going to say, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I think I'm going to be super brief because I anticipate some questions. So I'll just elaborate. I'm sorry, Shannon Newton, President, Arkansas Trucking Association. As Representative Hawk said, it was brought to our attention by the Texas Department of Public Safety that they had identified some fraudulent CDLs. Primarily, they were being sold by the cartel, and it has been verified. Even in Arkansas, there was a case when a person was incarcerated in our state and was delivered a fake Mexican LLC in prison. And so verified that is a real thing. And so in order to thwart that, the Texas solution was to require this additional form of ID, which is issued by the United States, whether it be a work permit or work visa. Those are U.S. documents. And that is a way to verify that the individual that is presenting that foreign CDL is who they say they are and is here working legally.
Okay, so So another piece of paper is going to fix this problem. I'm not so sure it will. But notice that she says that, hey, yeah, it's been proven. So even the guys at United Truckers were saying, here's the testimony of the Arkansas Trucking Association, who supports foreign CDLs and non-domicile CDLs on American highways. The opponent to Arkansas Secure and Safe Roads Act goes on the record in Senate Judiciary's testimony as the sole witness, speaking in support of their opposing bill. She even admits, yeah, the cartels are making these. We talked with the guys at American Truckers a couple times now, and one of the things I brought up was, what about our food? What about bioweapons? What about terrorist groups? You got Middle Easterners that could be tied to terror cells, poisoning food, poisoning meat. Well, you know, I mean, the level of danger here on a national security is big. Comment?
Yeah, I mean, really what comes to mind here is that there needs to be a federal authority come in to investigate this, whether it's Congress or the Department of Transportation or even the FBI. This is interstate by nature. So people who are driving long haul freight using fraudulent licenses or suspended licenses, somebody probably needs to get to the investigative bottom of the rings that are providing those fraudulent documents, creating them, and break them up, bust them, put them in prison. And also, you kind of have to hold the trucking companies accountable to a certain extent as well.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what they're saying. They want cheap drivers. And the guys at United Truckers are saying some of these trucking companies are destroying the livelihood for middle-class American drivers because they're driving the wages down with all of this cheap, foreign, illegal driving. Yeah,
that's a story as old as slavery. There's always been this argument. Well, we get our cotton cheap this way, but it's immoral to do that. To hire cheap labor because it's cheap, and to probably abuse the workers as well, who don't have any other choices and that sort of thing. I mean, the whole system of labor, of cheap immigrant labor, is riven with abuse and fraud, much like slavery was the institution back in the antebellum period, in my view. So anyway, that's a great story. I'm very concerned about the public safety, the highway safety aspect of this. My family drives. We all are on the road.
Exactly.
That to me, calls for federal oversight of some sort.
Let's talk about the Supreme Court. So Trump's had a few victories here with the court. Tell me about it. What are your thoughts on these victories?
Well, for example, the main Supreme Court victory that everybody's talking about, which is to allow the president to use the Alien Enemies Act to deport people, Venezuelan gangsters and terrorists, to El Salvador. It sounds good until you look at the fine print of that. What the court did was said, okay, you can continue to do this. However, you have to put them through due process, which is a kind of hearing, habeas corpus hearing, which can take a long time and involve appeals and appeals to appeals, et cetera, with a bunch of ACLU lawyers and NGO lawyers at their beck and call, kind of gumming up this whole thing. And so in that sense, practically, logistically speaking, that requirement by the Supreme Court is very bad. It means that they're not going to be able to use it in any kind of a large scale way.
So it doesn't give us a clue as to how the courts are going to be deciding future cases.
No, because now you've got the Supreme, so they have to go back to square one. The plaintiffs, which means they're going to file in Texas. If they haven't already, they will tomorrow, I'm sure. and then relitigate the whole thing, because the Supreme Court also did not settle the matters at hand, which is the key ones, which is whether that 1798 law can be used in the way that they're using it right now. Is there an invasion by another country? Are we at war? Those are the fundamentals of whether you can use that. Trump is saying, yeah, we've had an invasion and yeah, we're at war, but it's not settled. It's in court. So the courts in Texas will decide that, and then it'll make its way to the Supreme Court ultimately, and whether they take it or not. But to me, the bigger problem is that, yeah, they're cleared to use it, but they also are going to be gummed up by the processes that the Supreme Court ordered here. So I'm not as excited as other people are on that. It looks like a Pyrrhic victory, as they say, to me. That's just one man's opinion.
Okay, you wrote an article decoding Trump's border counterterrorism order over at the Jewish Policy Center. Tell me about this, and is he doing, his war on fentanyl? I mean, what are you what is he doing you're happy about? Because I know there are some things you are happy about, right?
Yeah, the border's closed. I just came back. The numbers show us that there are 200 to 300 a day being apprehended by Border Patrol from Tijuana all the way to Matamoros. That is, I don't think that we've ever had a number that low, like in the history of record keeping of border crossing. So that is like unbelievable, not to me, but to probably most people. I've always said on your show and everywhere else that it would take the Trump administration approximately 1 hour to end that mass migration crisis. You had 10,000 and 14,000 a day crossing, and now it's 250 a day. Border, I mean, that's really stupendous. And I was down there on both sides of the border in Juarez and in El Paso very recently. I've been writing stories off of that trip. I just came back from Del Rio and Acuna, and it's the same thing.
This is your footage right here, right?
Yeah. I mean, right there, that footage right there, a year ago was filled with thousands of immigrants right there. All along those riverbanks, they were just pouring in because they were letting them in. You get to go right through the turnstile. Now we are deporting and detaining 100% of everyone we catch. And nobody wants to come in and subject themselves to that. They come in so that they can get released. And that's the only reason they come in. They get released. So there's a deterrence going on there. And then fentanyl is another good news story. I wrote for the Daily Wire less than a week ago that the number of seizures of fentanyl on the U.S. side is down by 50%, which is a big indicator that total smuggling is down probably more of fentanyl. Why is that? Because Donald Trump put these tariff threat in place against the Mexicans and told them, if you don't stop that fentanyl, we're going to wreck your whole economy and your whole country. So the Mexican army has been down in Culiacan, Mexico, where it's the central hub of fentanyl production, raiding all of those labs, destroying all those labs, arresting 10,000 fentanyl producers.
10,000? 10,000.
10,000 arrests of people that make fentanyl down in that area, that Sinaloa cartel controlled territory. They never would dare go in there except to collect their cut. But now they're in there wreaking havoc.
And where is that again? Where are those arrests occurring?
It's on the southwest coast of Mexico. Kind of think across from Baja, Sinaloa state. That's the hub of fentanyl production.
And that's the Mexican government obviously doing that, right?
Mexican army has gone in there and slaughtered the whole industry.
And it's because of the tariffs. Trump says you better do this.
And that's, by the way, that's not just me talking about it. I interviewed Derek Maltz, who is the head of the DEA, Trump's head of the DEA right now, acting. And I ran this all by him, and he said, yeah, absolutely. They have just laid waste to the fentanyl labs down there. And it's such a problem for business, for the cartels. Derek Maltz says that the cartels have made a strategic business decision to not smuggle that stuff into the United States anymore. We'll see if that bears out. But if it's true, because, fentanyl was the one product line that they had, very successful for them, that was creating massive international havoc between the two partners, the White House and the palace down there in Mexico. So that's just too much trouble. So let's just cut out fentanyl. And actually, Maltz said that they're going to probably keep producing it, but they'll ship it to Europe instead.
Oh, wow.
Kill them.
But think about this. The tariffs are saving lives, and the mainstream media is not reporting. President Trump's tariffs are saving countless lives just with how he's using them for the war on fentanyl.
Now, I don't want to be too Pollyanna about this because I'm skeptical. I'm a skeptic on this sort of thing. Usually these cartels will find some way to keep it going. But I think that time is going to tell us whether the trend solidifies. March, I'm being told, is already low seizures, lower even than January and February
So
seizures.
right now the indication is it's working.
Yes. And by the way, if you read my daily wire piece, it's up on my site, toddbensman.com. I go into I quote the New York Times reporter who went into Culiacán after Trump was elected and saw the raids and saw the labs being dismantled and interviewed fentanyl producers who said, we are out of business down here. Everybody is running and hiding. We're out of business. There's no more fentanyl being produced here. And the New York Times reporter credited Donald Trump's trade tariffs. Now, these people are not big Donald Trump fans. They're just stating what they know to be true, which is that those tariffs forced the Mexican government to order the army in and to take care of that business down there. And the New York Times reporter said it, and I've got it linked. All of that's linked in there. And their story says it too, the New York Times story. So just saying, there is other good news happening at the border.
Wow, that's great. I'm getting a report now. Any American military intervention
Are they asking?
against the cartels? Supposedly,
Yes.
Yeah. Supposedly, the Mexican president saying that she is going to reject any American military intervention against the cartels, and I was just trying to verify it. So you already know about this?
Well, what I'm talking about is that the United States has really ramped up clandestine spy overflights to pinpoint where the labs are and where the high value human targets are. Those spy flights are responsible for Mexico being able to nab two of the biggest cartel chieftains down there and ship them to the United States. That was a CIA operation. That was a spy flight operation. And we are doing more spy flights over Mexico at their authorization, which I think is military. And we've got two destroyers now off the Pacific coast of Mexico, interdicting ponga boats and anybody trying to move drugs and people around on the ocean with the U.S. Coast Guard. And these are warships that were brought in from like the Red Sea, from Yemen area, where they were on patrol and doing that sort of thing, protecting shipping. They brought them in to do that. The CIA has been redeployed from Ukraine and from the Middle East into Mexico. That's New York Times and Washington Post reporting. that they have really troubled up on CIA officers to do counter narcotics in Mexico. And the Green Berets were deployed, about a dozen of them, to train naval infantry, Mexican naval infantry, in non-conventional warfare down there. And we've also put other, they're called littoral combat ships, LCSs, into the Gulf of America along the Mexican coastline where they're patrolling for drugs. And so there's pressure. There's military pressure on both sides, on the water and in the air. And on the ground, on our side of the border, are striker brigades. Have you ever seen one of those strikers?
I
those
have.
Eight-wheeled tanks?
Yes.
If you've ever been inside one, I'm jealous. I want to go on a ride.
No, I've never been in one.
And the 10th Mountain Division has been deployed to West Texas and Arizona to work the mountains for fentanyl and drug smuggling. And so the Mexicans have U.S. military in the air, in the sea, and on land on all sides. Those cartels want to try something. I wouldn't be too surprised if Donald Trump did order an incursion.
Wow. Great news tonight. Great report, Todd. ToddBensman.com. You can follow him on X, ToddBensman.com. And you can follow him at Bensman Todd. That's his handle, at Bensman Todd, or just, again, his website. We can find his books and articles and everything, ToddBensman.com. So there you go. Great report. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Dolly thanks you as well. She apologizes for barking. Apparently somebody's come into the studio, I was told. I cannot hear them, and I certainly cannot smell them. But she apparently can hear them and smell them. And she was alerting me that someone had come into the building. She does that with our cleaner as well.
Good watchdog. I've met that dog.
Yes,
That's a sweet dog.
She liked you. She warmed up to you very quickly, which shocked me because she's kind of skittish of most people, but she warmed up to you right away. But yeah, whenever she hears, I guess she hears, and I think she actually smells the cleaner come in the building because our air system obviously is pumping smells through it. And she'll start acting a certain way. I'm like, I have no idea what's bothering her. And then I go out of the studio and the cleaner's there. She doesn't like the brooms, the vacuum cleaner. So anyway, I was like, why is she giving us grief right now? She doesn't normally do this. And I got communication that someone's come in the building. I don't hear them. I certainly don't smell them, but apparently she's hearing them and smelling them. So yes, she's very good. She's doing her job. So she alerted us there are people in the building.
Earning her free medical care, food and board.
She is. She absolutely is. So there you go. I just want everybody to know why she's misbehaving tonight. ToddBensman.com. Thank you, Todd.
All right. Take care.
Todd Bensman checking in. Check out his site, won't you? All right, guys, one of our other sponsors, as you know, is WorldviewWater.net. WorldviewWater.net takes out all kinds of harmful chemicals in our water. I have one for underneath my kitchen sink, that one right there in the middle, the second one over from the left, or to the right there. That is under my kitchen sink. I have one for my shower, this one here on the bottom far right. This is a wonderful product that also not only puts oxygen and magnesium into the water, but takes out all these harmful chemicals. We just got another shipment in the other day to our warehouse. So please consider going now. WorldviewWater.net, WorldviewWater.net. You'll also find them on our sponsors page, WorldviewWater.net.